Hi there, welcome to Film Lovers. This is the show where people from in the industry or just general film lovers will discuss the topic of the day. And today's topic is going to be John Hughes films. I'm your host, Sonia Chim. I'm not really. I'm the work experience boy, but joining me is Sonia, who's on the other side of the mic this time. So we're flipping things up, and I'm going to be introducing Sonia. So, Sonia, how are you today?
I've got a stinking cold. I'm at home. I'm dying.
Okay, good. So I can feel one building as well. So we're both going to be talking a bit like this through the whole.
Yeah, and you'll hear me sniffing a lot, and you might hear the dogs barking downstairs. So you're the work experience kid, okay?
I am work experience podcast host today.
So behave yourself.
I will try. Yeah. So John Hughes films. So first of all, is there any particular reason why you're a big fan of John Hughes? What is it about his work that you find most appealing?
I think because I was born in 1980, so I mean I must have been about 9 by the time it got up to 1989. So I sort of vaguely remember him being around when Home Alone came out, and then obviously as I got older, I sort of started watching his other stuff more. I didn't start getting into. I think Home Alone was the only one I really saw of his. Like, was that 1990, 1989, 1990?
Yeah, that was 1990. That was probably the first one for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first exposure I had to him as a kid. And then I didn't start watching the other ones until I was like 20 onwards. I remember seeing The Breakfast Club when I was probably 21-ish, the same as when I saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But I think with him, he's very good with capturing teenage I don't know what the word is, strife, like the pains and the troubles that teenagers have, and that nobody understands them, and everyone can relate to that when you're a teenager, like, oh, the adults don't understand me, nobody understands me, my parents don't understand me, they're so embarrassing. I think that was it. I think he was very good at capturing the youth and having a voice for them at that time.
Being able to sort of have fun, almost not so much at their expense, but all these funny situations, and having heart as well at the same time.
Yeah, no, he was really good at that, and he was just I think at heart he was also probably very much a child himself. Do you know what I mean? He was very good at writing from the perspective of being a child or a teenager. So I think really he was kind of a big kid himself.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't do a huge amount of films, focused on adults really, and even when he did, there tended to be a kind of very strong line of comedy through it. So, almost farcical.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, I never got round to watching, is it St. Elmo's Fire? Did he do that?
I think he produced that one, I think. Possibly wrote it as well.
Yeah. I think the reason...
that was in his... His CD.
Yeah, I think the reason why I never watched that was because it looked like it was quite a serious adult film. And I didn't want to kind of tarnish the memories I had of him being so youth-orientated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can see that. So what was it about Home Alone that you particularly enjoyed? And more importantly, do you still enjoy it?
It's funny. I think because I can't remember how old I was when I saw it. It came out in 1990, so I was probably about 9 or 10 when it sort of hit the big time. And when you're a kid, you just think, oh, how amazing would it be if you were left in your house all by yourself and your parents had left you alone, and you could get up to all this stuff by yourself and have fun by, like, you know, using a sledge board to go down the stairs and things like that. And I think that's what every kid thinks about. Like, you know, oh, the adults are so annoying. They're always telling me what to do. It would be so nice if they just left me alone to be a kid and have fun, kind of thing. I don't know. What do you think? I think that's what it was. It's just when you're a kid, you think this would be so much fun. They're just so boring. They keep telling me what to do.
I think that was it. Yeah, and then obviously it's so much physical comedy as well. It's, you know, obviously I think we was, you know, as we're same generation, we probably both grew up on things like Tom and Jerry and the Looney Tunes. So you've got all that kind of physical comedy in it as well.
Yeah,
that appeals to that age group.
But was the other question what do you think of it now as an adult?
Yeah.
Or,
so is it still something you watch regularly?
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things where as soon as it's December, it's like, oh yeah, it's got to be Home Alone. But like but I think I might give it a watch before Christmas. But the funny thing is that as an adult, like, it's interesting seeing it again when you're grown up, because you don't have the same perspective. You're kind of more on the perspective of the adult side. Does that make sense?
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I think it's quite funny the way he's written the family, and they're sort of dreadful as well, aren't they?
Well, this is a point I was going to make. I mean, I remember seeing it after a long time, and as an adult, I'm thinking, the McAllisters are terrible parents. Why didn't they ever get done and called in for the social services? Because they left him alone twice.
I know, yeah, it's ridiculous. And then obviously the dad, I don't know what he's doing to be able to afford, you know, these extravagant holidays in that massive house.
I was going to say that's another thing. I mean, how many kids are there?
I think they.
So our dog's
he's got a couple of siblings. Yeah, he's got a couple of siblings, hasn't he? And then there's loads of cousins as well. So yeah, and then
I think there's about
Kevin's
6 of them
dad
between
is,
each, isn't
you know,
there?
Kevin's dad pays for sort of everything, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he
so
was
Frank,
loaded.
really
How did that happen?
Yeah.
They must have been.
I think arms dealer or something like
that. or part of the mafia or something.
Yeah.
There's no way they'll be able to afford that house.
Yeah.
Or that lifestyle.
I mean, it was set in Chicago, so there was a big mafia scene there. So.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. It's a conspiracy.
I think it could be, yeah. I still find it, you know, watching it at Christmas time, it's almost a law now that you sort of feel, well, I've got to watch Home Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, it is really funny seeing it as an adult again, because you realise actually you just think the parents are terrible people. Like, how can you leave your child behind at home going away on holiday? And they do it twice, and then the second one, Home Alone 2, where they go to, he goes to New York.
New York, yeah.
And they go.
They're stuck in France, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, because they're meant to go to Miami or something and take I can't remember. Is it France they go to, or was that?
I think they're going to Paris.
Flight?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Paris,
it. Yeah. And then they wake up in the second one, going, "We did it again!" And then you think, "Oh, you're so stupid! How can you do that again? What's wrong with you?" So
I still enjoy the second one as well, even though it just repeats everything again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit.
It's not as imaginative, but it's still quite fun.
And you know what's funny is that also when you see the first one again as an adult, you realise actually this is quite violent. Like a lot of those traps he sets for the burglars, Joe Pesci, and who was the other one? Daniel
Stern.
Daniel Stern. Like some of them are really horrible.
Oh, yeah, he's got, you know, flamethrowers.
The iron.
He shoots Joe Pesci in the groin with an air rifle.
The spider.
Yeah. Doorknob.
You know, there's a really interesting conspiracy theory that he grew up to be the Jigsaw killer.
Yeah, I saw. I can buy that, I think.
Yeah.
he's a bit of a maniac, but then you see his upbringing, and it's not really surprising.
No, neglected by his parents.
Yeah, because they're always kind of ragging on him, aren't they? So
yeah, they're really mean
everything's
to
always
him.
Kevin's fault. Yeah.
Yeah, poor Kevin. But so yeah, that was it. So as an adult, I noticed how the parents were really bad and how violent it was. Whereas when you're a kid watching it, you don't really pay attention to that. You just think you're a child. Your brain's kind of like a blank canvas, so you have nothing. It's a bit like when you're a teenager and in your 20s as well. Everything's new, so you don't know what to expect, and you have nothing to compare it to, if that makes sense. So you just kind of take it for what it is, really, until you realize when you're much older, actually, there's something not quite right here. So yeah, that was the interesting comparison as I see it. But then I see it more and more, I think, from the perspective of the adults more. I don't know. Well, also because I'm a swimming teacher, so I work with kids as well. And I just think with health hazards and safety, and I think, oh God, look at the house. I start thinking about all sorts of different things instead. So, but I don't know, what was it like for you watching it as a kid and then as an adult?
I just think, as a kid, you're attracted to the kind of the silliness of it, and then all the violence, I guess, because it's quite cartoony.
Yeah.
But I think as an adult, I also appreciate that John Hughes he's quite good at doing sentimentality as well. So it's quite touching in places.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I must admit, it always gets me at the end with the old man. Always,
when he gets reunited with his
Dusty
family.
Room syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really sweet. But that's kind of repetitive in the second one as well, isn't it, with the pigeon lady?
Yeah. It didn't work quite as well then, I guess, because obviously they're doing the same thing. But it's he does that quite well. He manages to have a bit of heart in the films as well.
Yeah, no, he's really good for that.
And did you like John Candy's cameo in the film?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because he's I can't remember how he meets us at the airport, and he's basically part of the band. And she needs to go back to Chicago, so he's like, "Oh well, we've got a van, and we're going that way. I mean, it will take longer, but yeah." No, I did. And also, I've got a question: did Uncle Buck come out before Home Alone or after Home Alone?
It was 1 year before.
So okay, sorry.
Yeah, 1 year before. I was just going to say, did you know that John Candy ad-libbed a lot of his lines?
I think I heard that somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, he starts sort of riffing on about his band and things like that, and also this story about when he accidentally left his daughter behind at an undertaker's.
Oh, yeah! And he's like...
Every time he tells that story,
and he's like...
cracks me up.
And he's like, don't worry about it. Kids forget about it.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, she spoke again.
No, I loved his appearance.
He's great.
He was really good. Yeah, so I don't know, is there anything you want to say about Home Alone? I just remember watching it as a kid and thinking this would be so much fun, and it's so cool, and like I'd love to be in a house and doing all this fun stuff, ordering all kinds of pizzas and crap on my
pizza, ice cream.
Yeah, on my parents' credit card. It's just like, and having all this and watching films I shouldn't be watching, and then but you do wonder how old is he meant to be in the film? 6?
I think he's sort of
7, 8.
7, 8, 8, 9, something like that.
Which he was really, wasn't he? He was about 8.
Macaulay Culkin's about 8, I think. 8 or 9.
Yeah. But you do think, how would you come up with all those traps? Do you know what I mean? Like even as an adult.
If you're a jigsaw in the making.
Oh, that's true. There's but that was.
I'll ask you now. Should we move on from Home Alone?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So let's stick with John Candy. Should we look at Uncle Buck?
Okay.
Yeah. So what What are your thoughts on Uncle Buck? Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't see it till I was about 22, 23. And and I remember not being so fond of it because I couldn't stand the oldest girl, the teenage girl. I just thought she was a right cow. I really didn't like her.
That kind of standard angsty, teenage girl, like the American films.
But I loved him, and then as I got older, I began to sort of like that film more. I just think he's hilarious, especially the scene where he's beating the crap out of the washing machine, and he's and he's shouting all this stuff like "I'm gonna kill you!" like this.
There's the sort of neighbour that sort of likes him a bit comes in, and she sort of overhears it.
Yeah, and she thinks he's talking to someone else and killing someone else. But my favourite bit is the bit when Macaulay Culkin comes in and goes, "Who are you?" and starts asking him lots of questions like, "Are you married?" Consecutive, and he goes, "What's your what's it? What did you say at the end?" He goes, I can't remember what he asks him, but it's just the way that I just thought that interaction was hilarious. Yeah, but Uncle Buck was that was funny because it didn't really have a big effect on me until I was older, and then I sort of developed more of not a soft spot, but then I began to appreciate John Candy a lot more for what he was really about.
Well, I think a lot of it again is he probably ad-libbed quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
He's just he always had this good ability to be really funny and then sort of endearing as well.
Well, I was going to say he's actually a really sweet uncle, isn't he? Like he's that like the scene where I can't remember. I think it's Macaulay Culkin's birthday, isn't it? And his parents hire a magician or clown, and he's completely drunk. And he basically says, "You're drunk. You can't come form like that." And he sort of gives him a big punch in the end because this guy's been a real arsehole. So, and then also when he goes to the teenager's boyfriend,
he has to get the girl back, doesn't it? Because she's gone off to a party.
Yeah. And so that's what I like. But he's also really clueless because obviously he hasn't got kids of himself. He's been kind of put in this awkward position where his brother, is it his brother or his sister? I can't remember.
Yeah, his brother.
Yeah.
So, and his sister-in-law is a bit kind of, he's the last resort. So
yeah.
Because
he's like this bachelor, isn't he? And
and they've literally rung everyone else, including all their neighbours, and no one else can look after the kids. So it's last resort.
So no, Uncle Buck grew on me when I got like many years later because I sort of developed more of an empathy. I don't know if that's the word for John Candy. I think because I see I see more of his human qualities as I get older. Whereas when you're a kid, you just think, oh, it's just this cool uncle who goes to help out these kids. Do you know what I mean? So you can't really.
Yeah.
I couldn't really relate to it as much if I saw it as a kid, as much as Home Alone. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it's more, his story, isn't it, rather than being from a kid's point of view.
Yeah.
So that probably is part of it.
So that's
have you seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Yeah, that's one of my favourites.
Yeah, I love that film. That might be one of my favourite comedies.
Yeah.
It's just one. Again, it's a bit like Home Alone. It's one I watch every year.
I like the fact. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So, what do you think of the film?
Of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Yeah.
Well, that's really funny because every time I travel on a plane, for instance, and I remember this was probably about 5 years ago when I was working in China for a year. And then after the end of my contract, basically I had a holiday for 2 weeks in Yangshuo, and then I got the overnight bus, which was like a bunker bed on a van in a coach even. So you have bunk beds in the coach, and you try to sleep while this coach is moving. And it drives all the way from Yangshuo into Shenzhen, and then you cross the border. So I had this whole big ordeal, which kind of felt like that because I did an overnight coach thing, and then next morning I had to cross over from the Shenzhen China border into Hong Kong, and then I stayed over at my dad's house for a few hours and tried to sleep, and then I had to get like a taxi or a bus back to the airport to get a long haul flight back into England. And it kind of it always kind of reminds me, like, actually this is kind of like the real life version of that film. But
that's great.
Yeah, but did you ever have an experience like that, do you think?
I did actually, in Asia as well. So I think they have a very kind of different, sometimes frantic way of travelling around, don't they, over that kind of part of the world. So I'm used to sort of overnight sleeper trains.
Yeah.
And kind of precarious buses.
Those sleeper trains, I took one from Shanghai to Hong Kong once, and that was a very long trip. And I remember this kid, and you can kind of relate to that film a lot because it feels so exhausting, and it's just like these constant hurdles that keep getting thrown at you when you just want to get to your bloody destination. And I remember when I went from Shanghai to Hong Kong, it was like it was a really long trip, and there was this kid in the room with me with two other women, and there were like 4 bunk beds, and I was trying to watch a film. I think I was watching The Shining or something, and this kid kept swinging around on the bed going, "What you watching?" And I was like, get rid of this kid. So it kind of relate to that film. But I think the thing I found really endearing about that film is actually, one, it's really funny because they keep bumping into each other, and he really doesn't care at the beginning. The Steve Martin's character, he just wants to get home really badly, and that's it. And his character isn't not very empathetic. He's just got like, I don't want to talk to anyone.
And he's sort of completely self-absorbed as well.
Yeah, and then you got the John Candy character, who's actually, when you realise at the end, actually he's a really sad character. He's just like a travelling salesman, and he lost his wife, like, who he really loved, like 12 years ago and stuff. Actually, he's he's like, at one point, he's like, my wife loved me, and this.
Yeah.
But the scene that I remember was when I can't remember, when he goes into the bathroom and he sees his his boxers in the sink, and
well, he's washing his face and drying his face like he's got a sort of face towel, and then the camera pans back, doesn't it? And he realizes it's John Candy's underwear.
Yeah. The scene that always cracks me up, well, there's several. The one scene is when they're in the car and they're driving on the wrong side of the road, and there's the couple going opposite. Is it opposite direction? Yeah, the opposite direction.
They're opposite,
on the other side, which is the side they should be driving on, going, "You're going the wrong way." And John
like, how do they know where we're going?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and John Candy's like, "Oh, don't worry." He goes, they're drunk, and he's making all these gags, like pretending, like they're really drunk and they don't understand anything. And then Steve Martin catches on because of the road or something. I can't, but like the arrows or something like that. And he goes, "Truck, truck, truck," and these 2 trucks come by in the opposite direction, and then like he has like an epiphany, or what do you call it? Like a
sort of quick vision, doesn't it?
Yeah, of John Candy turning to the devil, laughing, and he's turning into a skeleton. So that's always the bit that cracks me up, and
and that's what I love about John Hughes' humour, that he has lots of great gags and lots of physical comedy, but then he'll do something a bit strange as well.
Yeah, and also that's quite childlike as well, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very sort of childish type thing to do. Not in a bad way, but it's just really, really funny. And the other one that always gets me is when he's just completely lost it and he goes to pick up his car and his car's not there, and he has that massive rant at the woman, and he goes,
Yeah.
"I don't really care about the way you're talking to me." He goes, "I don't effing care that you left me and effing this and effing that." So I just think that's the most epic rant ever. But yeah. That's one of my favourite. I mean, there's lots of things I loved about that. And did you know that Kevin Bacon has like a cameo appearance at the beginning?
Yeah, I do remember Kevin Bacon's cameo.
Yeah.
That was another entertaining moment as well.
Yeah, because they're running for the same taxi.
Cab,
yeah. And actually, that's another question because she's having a baby was by John Hughes as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so
that must be one of his.
I think that came out before Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I think he asked him, "Do you want to have a very small part in this film?"
Yeah.
And he said, "You'd just be like racing, but it could be quite funny." Because, yeah, he gets quite a lot of them to come back again, doesn't he? And have these sort of...
He does, yeah. So She's Having a Baby was the one he did right after Planes, Trains.
Oh, okay, so it was the other way around. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I always liked that film as well. I mean, he was very young at the time. But, yeah, is anything about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that you want to talk about and why? I'm sure there'll be other stuff that creeps up and I'll want to talk about later, but I can't think right now. But is there anything you want to say about it?
No, it's just one of those films that's become a tradition for me, really, just like year after year.
Especially Christmas time.
Yeah, at Christmas time. I know it's a Thanksgiving film, but obviously, we're in the UK, so for me, it's always been about Christmas time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really nice sort of kind of moral, isn't it? That that your family is really important. And I like the fact that when he finds out that John Candy has actually got nobody to go to, I like the fact that he invites him in to have Thanksgiving with him and his family.
It's just that one moment he's sitting still, he's waiting for the last train back home.
That's it.
And that's when he suddenly has a moment to sort of realise and start thinking a bit more
putting
about,
things together.
Someone else.
Yeah.
So he gets that moment of, finally sort of piecing it together.
Yeah.
About John Candy's character.
Did you know that scene that actually that wasn't meant to happen? It was just, I think what happened, because I think he was trying to figure out at the time how to end the film, John Hughes.
Yeah.
And he was trying to rack out his brain thinking, how do I end this film? And he found this footage, and it was when Steve Martin was just basically having a break on the track, just having some downtime, and he thought the cameras wasn't rolling. So he was actually being himself, just, chilling out or whatever. But it kind of looked like he was having like a thought, you know what I mean? And then that's when he realized actually that's a really good time to sort of a way to wrap it up, and kind of he comes to the conclusion after his adventures and this awful journey he's had to make to go home. He's finally put it all together that actually, John Candy has no one to go home to and is actually, traveling all by himself, etc. So yeah, did you know that?
I didn't know.
So yeah. Really I can't remember how I saw that.
But somewhere. I think, it really makes the film as well.
Yeah.
And then you play off that persona that John Candy always had.
And also, I really like the fact that towards the end, actually, you see a very human side of Steve Martin. Because throughout the film, he's not a very likable person, I don't think. Well, especially at the beginning, you know what I mean?
I think, it's a good balance. So you've got him at the beginning, he's quite, he's obviously wealthy and very self-centered. So he's completely focused on getting back to his family. And then you've got John Candy as kind of like this blithering character. But then the more you see of him, the more you get to sort of become endeared to him. And then the more that rubs off on Steve Martin as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because you begin to realise he's rubbing off on him, don't you? Even though he comes across like he can't stand him and he's fed up with him turning up all the time in the bus and then on here in a plane. It's like, it's you again! It's like, leave me alone.
Yes, I mean it's a really sort of funny comedy. Really, so many great lines in it. but it's also really really touching as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a really good film.
No, it's just a really nice film, especially towards the end. It kind of makes you feel not tear. Well, yeah, I guess it kind of makes you almost want to shed a tear. Do you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah. It's a kind of just gives you that warm feeling, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a perfect seasonal film.
A bit like Home Alone, like when they all come home all of a sudden. She's like, "I'm so sorry," and it's that family feeling kind of thing, So yeah, is there anything you want to say about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
No, I think we've covered that. So I think there's another one I think you like, and that is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't like it?
Do you know what? I could watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off over and over again. It's a film I watch if I feel really crappy, and I think everyone would love to have a friend like Ferris. I mean, to be honest, come on, you'd love to have a friend like Ferris, wouldn't you? He's just such a good guy.
Yeah, it's such a fun film.
It is
to watch,
especially when you're a teenager and you think, how can I don't want to be at school? This is so boring. I don't have to be doing this and doing this. I just want to have fun.
Yeah. Exactly. I think I can still relate to it even as a working man now.
Yeah, and as an
adult.
Think
sometimes I quite like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah. He tried to do us. There was that teaser, wasn't there, when we thought, there's going to be a sequel as him as an adult bunking off work, and then it turned out just to be like a kind of a promo for the bowling. I can't remember, some football thing.
The Super Bowl. Probably,
yeah, that was it. And so he's basically mimicking that, and I almost got really excited. It's like there's going to be one as him as an adult bunking off work. And I think everyone can relate to that, especially if you're a teenager or an adult. You're like, I don't want to have to go to work, leave me alone, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to be doing all this stuff that being responsible. I just want to have fun. But
exactly, it's just very imaginative as well about everything that Ferris does throughout the day to keep his day going.
Yeah.
So he's got this plan, and even when something goes slightly awry, he's always got a counter plan. A way to get out of the situation.
Yeah, he's just so funny, and I like the way he really, tries to help his friend Cameron, who's I don't know, he's obviously suffering from depression or something. Like the beginning when he phones him and he goes, "When Cameron was in Egypt land, let my Cameron go." But yeah, he's just such a cool guy. And that's another film where it's very much like, them against the adults, especially when the head teacher's trying to.
Principal Rooney,
Yeah, when he's trying to get to the bottom of, that actually he's bunking off way too many times and his parents have been washed over by him. And he wants to prove everyone wrong. But yeah, him between the secretary, there's like those funny periods, aren't there, when they're running around the office going.
Well, there's that moment where he thinks he's busted their ruse, that he thinks Ferris is on the phone posing as Cameron's dad or Ferris's dad.
And he goes, "You roll her dead body." Because they call in, don't they? It's Cameron pretending to be her father. And the father's saying that they've had a death in the family and the grandmother's died or something, and Sloane needs to be let go, his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And
so then Ferris Bueller, he comes on the other line, just sort of phone in, say, "Oh, can you get my sister to give me some homework?" And then Rooney's sort of got this horrible realisation in his face that he might have just said this to the girl's dad.
He's just like, you roll her big dead body like this, and she's going, and the secretary's going, "Ed." I did feel kind of, you don't really feel empathetic towards him because he's just meant to be like the bad guy, and he feels like the bad guy, doesn't he?
And it's just the way he's so obsessive over this one kid.
I know!
He's such a big influence on people.
Because he does take it really far, doesn't he? Like he's like, I've got to prove all these people wrong. The parents are so stupid. I've got to prove them wrong and myself right. So he goes all the way to his house, and there's that scene where he goes through the dog flap, isn't there? And the Rottweiler, that big Rottweiler's there. But yeah, no, Ferris Bueller. Who doesn't love Ferris Bueller? I mean, what do you want to say about that? It's quite hard because I'm sure there'll be stuff I want to talk about that'll pop into my head later, but I can't quite think right now.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack in that film as well.
Yeah, it's really good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, really great soundtrack. It's just that, you know, even though when it goes a little bit far-fetched, or you've got these moments like when Ferris Bueller suddenly, you know, in the middle of this parade and he's on top of the stage.
Oh, that's great, that bit.
Yeah, it's sort of a little bit far-fetched, but you almost buy it because of the, you know, what his character is like.
Yeah.
You know, it's Ferris Bueller, so he can do it.
And he's singing that song which he sings in the shower at the beginning, isn't it? Darker shade. And then he sings the Beatles on the parade thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good fun, and you see everyone dancing and stuff. I like the opening monologue he does where he goes, I can't believe my parents bought that, or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, you fake a cramp, and what do you have to hold?
Lick your palms as well.
Yeah, and he goes, it's a bit immature, but then so again, it's high school. And then he goes into that whole bit in the shower where he talks about, like, oh, if I was in school today, I'll be doing socialism. And he goes into this thing about the Beatles or John Lennon being the walrus or so. And he goes, I could be the walrus. It still means I have to bum lifts into school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a little bit sort of annoyed that his sister got a car, but he got a computer.
Yeah.
And then you see him using the computer to alter, you know, the amount of days off that are registered for it that he's had.
And I like when he calls in and he's
into their system.
Yeah, and I like when he's talking to the freshman on the phone, and it's like, oh shit, I can't be doing another year of summer school again. He's trying to get me out.
Yeah.
And they pass the phone on to this girl. He's like, can I talk to someone else? And they pass his phone on to the girl, and he goes, oh, I'm dying. She goes, oh shit, do you think you'll still be alive tomorrow? He goes, I think so.
Yeah, I just love how silly the film is, but you know, it's still just so entertaining and fast paced.
Yeah.
Like he says, life moves pretty fast.
In the fast lane.
Yeah.
Did you notice Martin Sheen's cameo?
Yeah, as the
junkie.
Yeah, the sort of druggy junkie, the bad boy.
Yeah, and he's the one that kind of turns her perspective around, isn't she? Because she really can't stand Ferris, and she's fed up with him getting away with everything all the time, and at the end she basically tells him to go into bed when Rooney's like I found you, I've busted you. So yeah, no, it is a really sweet film. It's one that's like a really good feel good, and you think and my other favourite scene, I mean, we can't forget about this one, is when they're missing economics and the register, the teacher that really boring teacher who actually is a really fun guy. Like he's he's not.
He is a teacher though, wasn't he?
He was. He taught economics. So, and apparently John Hughes told him just to do some ad lib because he actually was an economics teacher. What's his name? Ben something.
Ben something or other. Yeah.
Ben Stein, I think, wasn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's really clever. Like he's you know, I think he only did maybe a couple of films, but that whole you go on YouTube and people's comments are so funny, and then some of them are like, you know, actually, I know he's supposed to be boring, but his speech is really interesting. On economics, he's like voodoo economics in the American, and then he goes on about the American Depression in the anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone, and all the teenagers are in the class and they're falling asleep.
Yeah, just falling asleep. Yeah.
One's got drool out their mouth, the other one's chewing gum. And then there's that famous scene where he's going, Bueller. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say about it, or that scene? That scene always cracks me up.
No, I love that scene. Shall we do? I think let's do one more. Mr. John Hughes film. What about The Breakfast Club?
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah.
That's probably between that and Ferris Bueller. That's one of my favourite ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can never go wrong with the Breakfast Club.
I love
the
Breakfast Club. Great soundtrack as well.
It is. And you know, I saw that after Ferris Bueller. So I went on a bit of a marathon with John Hughes.
Yeah.
So I saw that in my early 20s. And I just thought it was so cool. I was like, actually, like, I never was in detention, and I wish detention was that much fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a bit more of a drama than a lot of his other ones. Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of comedy in it, but there's just this dramatic thread running through it. And I think, you know, there's so many distinctly different students in it that they all kind of have this, each one has something you can relate to.
Yeah, like there's the bad boy who's what's his name?
Judd Nelson.
I'm going to look up their ages because only 2 of them were actual teenagers. The other 2 were well into their 20s or 30s. Judd, I'm going to see.
So, yeah, I think, Molly Ringwald would have been in her 20s.
No, she was 16. Her and Anthony, hang on, I'm going to check their ages.
Yeah, Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah,
both. He would have been one of the younger ones.
It was both of them because they were still after. I remember seeing their thing about it, and they were saying that after filming they had to go to actual school between scenes, so they were actually doing real school and in the film school. Hang on,
I know Judd Nelson. He was probably the oldest. I think he was
25. I'm looking now.
Yeah, 25. Yeah.
So I'm looking. So the ages of everyone. And you do wonder, you do think he looks kind of old for a teenager. He's
that kind of character. Maybe you could sort of think that he was held back a few years.
Yeah, that's true. So he was 25, and they're in high school, so he's probably playing 16, 18, something.
Yeah,
18,
17,
something like that.
18 probably.
She was really 16. And Molly Ringwood was 16, and her 17th birthday was only 3 days after the film's release.
Okay, yeah.
Emilio Estevez, I'm looking, was 23 years old, and Anthony Michael Hall was 16 years old. Yeah, I thought so, because I remember that him and Molly Ringwood were the only real teenagers, and Ali Sheedy was 23. So most of them were between 23 and 25. And the only real teenagers at the time were Molly Ringwood and Anthony Michael Hall.